You know what? I don't understand. I mean, it must be fine. Let's hope it's fine. Yay! Hi, welcome back. It's been too long, but also I'm sorry because of the state that I always seem to be functioning. Today it is, as I'm recording this right now, it's the it's the beginning of July. So let's see how this works out. But I don't know if this is going to be a video or if it's going to be a video series, but buckle up because we're going to be making an edging clamp. And so I'll show you a picture right here, but it's basically kind of like a C clamp, but it has 3 threaded elements, and so gives you, I guess, a little bit more variety in what you can clamp, I guess. But I just think it's a really interesting object, and so I want to make it in sterling silver because I think that would be fun, and do the little, stones on the end, and just like, my typical, I guess, like all the usual suspects will be included. So let's see. I have assembled. Hold on, I have to get it. Ha! Okay, here's everything. Ah! Everything. Okay. So, for the main part of the clamp body, I'm going to use this sterling silver sheet. And it's really thick, so it'll be a nice back kind of spine for that piece of that section. Like I'm just like, a lot of these things I don't know what the names of the parts of the tools are, so I just kind of make it up as I go. So these threaded elements are going to be made out of this sterling silver round stock that I have. And it's 10 gauge. And so this 10 gauge is also, it's reading at 37 drill bit size. Guys, I'm kind of weird. I feel like if you're watching this, my usual antics. But if you don't, you're probably like, what is this girl doing? But anyway, so to figure out the threaded part, I use this twist drill machine screw tap gauge. And so what did I just say? Now I'm nervous. Stop. Okay. So it's reading as 10 gauge round wire, but also reading as 37. There's a duality. And so, oh no, this might not work. For crying out loud, 37. Oh dear. Well, I may have to draw this down. More may be revealed, but I'm planning on using this for the threaded elements. I have these 2 dies that are 540 dies, and it's just a luxury that I happen to have recently inherited these from my father, because usually I only have 1 die, and if it breaks, I'm so it feels nice to have 2. And then I also have the corresponding 540 die, which is exciting. And I have actually quite a few of these as well. So he set me up for success. God bless him. Thank you, Dad. And I'm telling you all this, but it probably doesn't even really mean anything to you because it's just round wire and sheet. But I also have my tube that I'm planning on using for the different threaded elements, and then I'll be putting stones on the ends of the threaded pieces. So I guess maybe if I can find an image of the C clamps that I've made before with these little threaded elements, or I made a little tiny vise that had stones in the working mechanism of the clamp. I'll throw those in so you can see them right now, but so that I'm not full of But I am planning on using 2mm and 3mm stones. So I just kind of assembled everything. I think that we're just gonna have to get started and see, because now that I'm looking at the threaded elements, I may have to like do a little bit more legwork to make sure that the threaded parts are going to work. So, but other than that, I'm pretty much ready to go. I got all the cameras with the batteries charged. So without further ado, folks, thanks for tuning in, and let's get to work. Getting to work. All right. And we're just cutting off a piece of that 10 gauge wire. And since I'm going to be drawing it down, I started like trying to hammer it into a taper. You know, it doesn't have to go into a point, but it just has to go into a taper so that it fits through the draw plate. But then I am now going to anneal it and anneal the tube because the tube needs to be drawn down too. All right, those are both nice and annealed, and I'm going to put them in the pickle pot and get all the oxidation off of them. So while I'm waiting for that to pickle so that I can draw down the wire in the tube, I'm going to start cutting other components. So yeah, so I have my template printed out, and I'm just starting off with like figuring out the measurements and just making final decisions about how long certain elements are going to be or what width they're going to be cut at, and writing them down so that I like stay consistent and I remember. Yeah. I'm cutting some tube that is going to be for the back end of the threaded element of the clamps. And so I have to cut 3 of these. Yeah. And you know, I'm using my jeweler saw, miter jig, you know, the usual fun and games. All right, so that's all 3 of them, and just messing with the cameras, making sure that they're all still like recording. So now I started cutting the length of wire that the, like it's the part that slides back and forth on the end of the like clamp, adjustable element. So I'm just, you know, cutting all 3 of them. And then I have to cut the little end caps for those elements. And at a certain point, I realized, like, you know, this isn't really all that interesting. So I did end up maybe cutting 2 or 3. We'll see right here in a minute. And then turning all the cameras off. Yeah. See, I'm turning all the cameras off. And then after I have all 6 of them cut, I turn them back on. And so then this is taking some 20 gauge, it's probably 18 gauge sterling silver sheet and fabricating the little jaws that are going to be on the inside that's actually going to touch whatever the clamp is clamping. I, you know, center punched 3 individual little punctures, and then I used my dividers set at the, like, you know, radius that I wanted them to be. And then I traced the circles, and now you can see I'm drilling through the centers where I center punched. And now that I'm going to, because it's going to be easier to drill through all of them while they're still like all in the sheet. But if I cut them out and then tried to drill the center, I'd have a harder time holding it than if I just pre-drill that. And these are the things that I think about. So yeah, those circles, I took the burr off with that little bit of sandpaper. And now I'm gonna draw down my tubing and my wire. And so move all the cameras over, get that all set up, take out a nice little vise and my draw tongs and my draw plates, and I'm talking to the camera right now. Oh, so this is when things started going south, because I realized that I didn't actually have the right size draw plate to draw down the tubing.
So I had to pivot my idea, and I had to rethink the size that I was threading the wire and then going to be tapping the tube. And so I ended up switching to, I don't even remember off the top of my head. It takes a long time to thread rod when you need a lot. So I think I threaded some of it and then put it away because I was like, I can do this off camera. I don't need to be wasting battery charge and footage space on the card. So I switched gears and found some nice pin vices to use to take the burrs off of those little tubes that I had cut like at the beginning of the session, because I need to drill through them and solder them and all of this. So switching all the camera batteries, making sure everything is charged up. It's like a constant battle, making sure everything is recording. A rewarding battle, but constant. So this is just using a machinist square and that center finder tool to find where I was gonna drill through the sides of these. And you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm having a really hard time figuring out how I'm gonna drill through like sideways. See, I have it held in that clamp there, but I just was having a really hard time center punching it and having a hard time like staying on the center punch because it was too shallow. And so at this point I realized I gotta call in some backup, and so get ready for the best guest appearance coming up. And but I started getting the other elements ready to be soldered, and so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just soldering the end cap to one side of those slidey back and forth thingy part of the clamp. Yeah, so it's very kind of small. But I can only solder the end cap onto one side because then it has to pass through the hole in the threaded element. And then the other side will get soldered on. All right, so then I decided to finally cut the threaded rods. And so they're definitely cut way oversized, but I'd rather have it be oversized. And then, I mean, at that point I was still kind of like unsure of the final dimensions of the whole clamp back spine, and so just keeping my options open. So I took out those little things from the pickle and trying to figure out what I'm gonna do because I was having a really hard time, like I told you before. Like, this is me procrastinating because I'm stuck just thinking about stones and stuff and how big does that tube really need to be. And I think at this point I realized like I had cut those 3 at the beginning of the session too short. So I found a little bit more of that same tubing and I cut, you can see I don't have very much tubing left. So I cut the rest of them. I cut 3 new ones, and then you can see I'm tapping it so that the threaded rod goes into that, and I'll be able to solder it into place, and it'll solder really seamlessly because it really is like threaded into the end cap. But just doing this a couple of times, so I have to do 3 of them. So then now I'm going to solder the threaded part into that threaded little end cap, the second iteration of ones that I cut that are just a little bit taller, and they leave room for the stone. Like, I think that was really the issue, was that the first ones that I cut weren't going to leave enough room for a stone to be tube set in the end. And so just, doing the soldering. And then those have to be pickled. So while I'm waiting for those to pickle, I figured I would dap the little like jaw pads. So pulled out my dapping block and worked intuitively. And then that's done. So I put it away because we clean as you go here. Taking those other elements out of the pickle. There was a little bit of solder slop, so I just cleaned it up with some of these like sandpaper sticks that I use quite often. And then I had to lay out again, so I did it again the second time on these 3, the layout of where they needed to be center punched for the hole to be drilled through. And here's our guest appearance. So I need you to hammer this hammer the top of this. Okay, hit me.
You ready?
Yeah. Woo! It
Is it too much?
was very good. I was expecting to have to tell you to hit it again. I was expecting something more tentative, but that's exactly what I needed.
What?
I wasn't expecting you to give me what I needed. Ready. Oh, okay. Maybe too much. Ooh. I think it's okay. On the next one, maybe a little bit less. This is very soft, annealed sterling silver, so. Okay, go ahead. I'm ready. Oh, perfect. Couldn't be any better. That's exactly.
You could hit your camera.
That's all right. They're fine. Okay.
Tell me when.
When? All right, and then this is the last one. It feels funny only making 3 of everything, because usually I make an even number just because it's how it works out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm ready. So definitive. It's perfect. All right, ready. That's it. Oh, I need a little bit more. That's what I was just the same thing, just light, because it's already in there a little bit. That's it. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are fantastic. Oh, I love you. You made me laugh so hard I cried. All right, so then now that those were center punched by my wonderful assistant, Rob, my husband, I drilled through them with my flex shaft. And I did it with my flex shaft because in this instance, it's more important to have control than to be, you want to be straight, but like the drill press only gets you so much because the drill bit is so thin that it is kind of wobbly. So I felt like using the flex shaft was the best option. And then here, now that those things are inserted through the holes in the end caps, I can prep the other side of the slidey back and forth thing, whatever that's called, to solder the other side of the cap to it. So those are ready, but it was kind of late in the day at this point, and so I didn't want to do any soldering that could possibly get messed up, and so I decided instead to cut out the back kind of spine. While I wait for the rubber cement to cure, I'm working on those little dapped jaw pads. And so I'm just sanding them flat and filing the edges and making sure that they look really nice and intentional. and drilling through the holes, re-drilling through the holes in the center because they kind of got warped a little bit in the doming process. So now it's like wide enough that I can thread a piece of wire in there and then use the wire to help me file the pieces, like to be really nice and consistent. So yeah, I'm just still filing. So there. It was kind of hard because it is hard to hold them and also file. So and then I have the rubber cement is cured so I can adhere the two pieces together and then use my jeweler saw and probably like the same, you know, I usually default to a 2/0 saw blade size, whatever. So yeah, just cutting that out. And then I think that's where I called it a day.
Okay, I'm gonna level with you. It's a different day. I just didn't feel like faking it because I thought about putting on the same clothes that I was wearing last weekend during last studio session and pretend like a whole week I'm basically a completely different person. A whole week has gone by. So anyways, so this is as far as I got. I got a lot done that day for sure. So this is the, you know, 3, 1, 2, 3. These 3 things are finished. Well, actually, they're not finished. They still need this little end cap to be soldered. You can tell this one hasn't been soldered and this one hasn't been soldered. But these ones you can tell by how they're like slightly depletion gilded that they have been soldered. And these you can tell are shinier, like they just haven't been heated and pickled by me ever in this. Yeah. So those are those. Obviously, they're longer than they need to be right now because of best practices. Like I can make them shorter, but I don't know how short exactly yet. So that will come. And so then the pads of the little ends are these. So this is going to be drilled out bigger and then tapped. Here, I don't know why I'm like, see, there's 3. You see them. This will be drilled out to be the tap hole size, and then I'll thread that, and then I'll be able to thread in this part. And so I got those little end nubs, jaws. They're like jaw pads, sort of, whatever. And then this is starting to come together because I have the pieces cut out. And yeah, I think that's it. That's what I got done. And I want to tell you what I have to do, but I'll wait until tomorrow. But you probably can guess a little bit, and that's fine. But I mean, for a first session, that was pretty impressive. I think, looking back on it, like I got a lot of stuff done on this, and the hardest parts are yet to come, but we'll cross those bridges as they come. So anyways, all right, that's it for, well, I mean, last week's studio session, but that's the wrap up of last week's studio session. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate that you're interested in what I'm doing and watching and listening and following along. So thanks so much. And I enjoyed spending this time with you in my studio, because it really does help me get down here, and it does motivate me to keep moving, knowing that the cameras are rolling. So thank you so much for giving me that gift, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, and that's all for now. That's all, folks. Okay, I love you. Bye. Mwah!